in Lees-Galloway.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. It's a pleasure to speak to Part 3 of the Road User Charges Bill, which the topic of which, of course, is the assessment of unpaid road user charges. And it's absolutely right and correct that the Crown should have a method for assessing what it deems to be unpaid road user charges. It's a belief on our side of the House that everybody should get a fair go, everyone should get a fair chance, and that they should pay their fair share. And the same goes for people who are liable to pay and firms that are liable to pay road user charges. We have to have a method for assessing those road user charges, and of course Part 3 also deals with the associated penalties for non-payment and the avenues that those, I suppose, charged with non-payment can appeal the being assessed for unpaid road user charges. It's excellent to see the government putting through a piece of legislation that tries to tidy up the issue of unpaid road user charges, because, of course, before the election there was a massive protest by trucking firms and led by former National MP Tony Friedlander, of course, against the Labour government trying to ensure that people who are liable for road user charges did not try to game the system, especially when the road user charges were changed. It was done without notice to ensure that no one shirked their responsibility for paying road user charges. And there was an outcry, and in fact the truckers did do exactly what Shane Jones just suggested, and they did clog up a number of our roads. I remember John Banks being in huge support of them. He was very excited about them expressing their right to protest and the right to free enterprise by clogging up the main streets of a number of our cities. And absolutely, look, I support anybody's right to protest, and that was about the method that was used to ensure that road user charges were paid. Now, I think it's right and proper that we ensure that unpaid road user charges can be assessed as allowed for in Part 3 of this bill, the provisions are not ones that the Labour Party has any concerns with. There were some minor adjustments made at Select Committee, particularly around what information could be collected from electronic system providers. And I do know that there was some concern expressed by some submitters that perhaps these the power to collect information through an electronic system could be used to collect information which perhaps had less to do with road user charges and more to do with some other aspects of safe driving. I know that, for instance, the distance travelled over a certain period of time could be collected, and it was suggested that might be used to determine whether or not vehicles had been speeding during that time, and a number of other bits of information that could be collected. But this is about collecting information for the purposes of assessing what road user charges are liable to be paid, and that is specifically what it's about. To be honest, I don't know why a trucking operator that was operating within all the laws that other information could be used to assess them on would be concerned about that information being gathered. If they were operating in a lawful way and a safe manner on the roads, then they would have nothing to fear from that information being collected. But I did note the concerns that were raised. The distance recorder information is to be reported to the RUC collector by a vehicle inspector following an inspection of a RUC vehicle under Section 58.1 or provided to an enforcement officer.
Mr. Chair.
Stuart Nash.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair,